Yeah, Danielle had a fantastic swim out in Portugal. Really a shame that they can only take one swimmer per country in the open water events in Rio, because Danielle certainly would have performed admirably if she had made it onto that team.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why that is, given that we're allowed 2 swimmers per event in the pool. Why wouldn't we be allowed 2 in the open water?
I'm not entirely sure. I imagine thinking is they don't want the field and the pack too big at the start of the race, so they limit it to 25 swimmers, I think, in the open water, which is a shame because these open water swimmers are used to swimming in bigger packs than that, especially at world events. You know, they can have over 50 in the field, so it seems strange. It could come down to just Olympic accreditations and amount of athletes at the games and limiting it that way, but maybe in the future that's something that they can alter. Well, who knows, really.
So coming up to the 100, so a long way to go here. Hattersley and Huskisson, 1 and 2, 102.54 and 103 dead.
So Daniel will swim at the European Open Water Championships. A small consolation for our efforts in Portugal. And we'll have Camilla obviously next to Danielle going to the Olympics for the GB team in the pool events.
So the 1500, not an Olympic event, is a World Championship event, and so these ladies won't have swum this, I suppose, that often. It doesn't appear in a lot of programs. So obviously they've chosen to swim in this one. What will they be looking to get out of it?
I imagine it's almost more of a training exercise. I probably believe for some of the girls, and then like any event in the end, so some of the other girls might be looking for personal best times. They may not even have a personal best time, so looking to set a personal best time in the event, and for sure they will have done the training for the event. It's just not part of the Olympic program, so they maybe don't get to swim it as often as they would like, but they're certainly capable.
So as we expected, it's very much these two leading them out. Hattersley in 4, and on her left-hand side, Huskisson in 5. Meg Finnan, you can see in lane 3, has 3rd place to herself at the moment from Nikki Miller. Now Nikki has had a super time of it on the junior ranks. She was the junior in the 400 and the 800. So good stuff from her across the board, also in medley as well. So she'll be looking to add another junior title here. South Lanarkshire and Andy Higgins and the 2 McGowans have a proud record in distance swimmers and bringing on the distance swimmers. I suppose Meg and Nikki are good examples of that. Not much in it here between Camilla and Danielle.
It looks like this is going to be a good race, and that's in a 1500. You can often need that, someone there next to you pushing you along. It can be a lonely place if you're out in front. So hopefully these girls can push each other on to a faster time.
They're pacing around 65.5 at the moment. Let's check the gap as they go through the 350. That's about 6 tenths. 346.8, 347.4. So certainly Camilla is not opening up the gap. It's around 1.5 meters.
I did a lot of training with Danielle when we swam, and she's very tough, and she won't let Camilla get away if it's possible.
How does an open water swimmer manage their training? Obviously in the winter months, if you're in Scotland, you're not going to be open water, are you? So you have to do the work in the pool.
Yeah, they just a lot of laps. No, it's Danielle would often be doing very different things to the rest of the group in Stirling just to get those laps in. If you're swimming 10k, it's a long way to be racing, so you've got to do a lot of training.
So endurance is the key, I guess, and maybe, but it comes to the latter end. Would you expect Camilla perhaps to have the speed at the end compared with Danielle?
I would think Camilla maybe has a bit more of a sprint, but one thing would have to find in open water swimming is you need a sprint at the start to get yourself into position for the rest of the race, and then you need to be able to change that pace again near the end, and that's possibly one of the most difficult things to do in swimming. Is when you're settled into a pace, changing that pace and picking it up can be very difficult. And with Danielle's experience, she should be able to have that little change of pace. But Camilla obviously made that Olympic team in a 200 freestyle, so she will have more natural speed, let's say. But Danielle maybe has trained in a slightly different way to get the best out of the speed that she does have. So could be interesting.
Certainly could be interesting, because Danielle has closed that gap now pretty much. And the two of them are coming down just about side by side now. So you see the camera panning round as they come to the end. You can see it still is Camilla leading, but well, it's a fairly small lead. 5:58.3, 5:58.8. They will be very aware of each other and biding their time, perhaps. Just plowing through the laps. The wider angle, you can no longer see Meg Finnan in the shot. She is still in third. I can assure you of that. We'll see her when these girls turn. Does look maybe Camilla's just up her lead a little bit now, just over half a second, 6:31.06, and a little bit less than 65.5 down. That was about a 65.3. Very consistent pacing, but maybe just slightly upping the pace as the race goes on. If they can, because they will start to tire. Even the fittest and strongest of athletes must tire.
Yeah, for sure it is a tough event. And there's also different ways to swim. It'd be interesting to know what their coaches have told them, because some athletes like to think of it as 3 500s, where they just get into it in that first 500 and then try and move on the pace on each 500, building into the race. It'll be a very difficult event if you go out too hard and then have to hold on. So getting that pacing right is the key to this event.
But these two are experienced campaigners, so I'm sure that they will be getting it right. That lovely shot there from our camera that is positioned on the blocks there, and you get a really good view of the turns as they go through and into it. 7:36.3. Camilla's split there, about 8/10 now is the gap, and again 65.2 that time, so the pacing very steady. You see starting to lap now. You can see there the youngster in lane 8, Iona McLeod, just 13-year-old, so this will be a bit of a learning experience for her, I would think. Very promising youngster though, under coach David Haig up in Dundee. So let's see what the second half of this brings. We're now into that second half. Camilla maybe just probably, I think, got the biggest lead she's had now. It's a bit more on the body length. And maybe she'll be looking as they go into the second half just to start to wind it up a bit. 8:41.27, so that was under a 65, so that was about 3 or 4 tenths faster than we've been seeing. Once again, it looks like Danielle doing her best to respond. Not going to let Camilla away with this easily. This, of course, is our very last individual race. Relays to come after this. So these two girls are going to give us a good one to finish up on the individuals. We're back down to about 4 tenths of a lead.
It does look like Camilla has just upped her rate a little bit and maybe upped that effort. And that's probably why you're seeing a slight increase in the times. A decrease in her times, should I say.
And the lead has increased a bit more now. It's about 3 meters. And certainly, yes, it does look like her stroke rate has increased. 9:46.04 for that one, so under a 65 that time, about 64.78.
Perhaps she's trying to negative split this race. As we pass the halfway mark now, she's maybe had a thought that she's going to try and go the second half of the race faster than the first half, which would be a very efficient way to swim it.
Yes, didn't take a note of the 750 split, so I won't be able to tell you offhand whether she's done that or not. It'd be interesting to see, because of course the first half has the benefits of the dive, which gives you up 2 or 3 seconds maybe.
Yeah, something in that region. Obviously it's not as important on the 1500 as it would be on a 50.
So it does look like that lead now is building with every lap. Up to about 5 meters now, maybe a bit more. As Camilla goes through 1,000 meters, 10:51.06. Pretty much bang on 65 that time. And well, we thought we were going to have a tight race maybe in the first half of this. It's now starting to look like a fairly clear 1-2. Camilla taking firm control. 11:23. So her lead now is over 3.5 seconds. Still in third place is Meg Finnan. Just saw her there passing in lane 3. But you can see she is a long way back on the leading 2 and not that far ahead of Nikki Miller, her teammate. Let's just see the gap there, 11:49, and well, in fact I'm looking at the swimmer who's 9th and lapped, so that was misleading. Nikki Miller is actually quite a long way back. So third place also looking very clear now for Meg Finnan. So the front runners there now, you can see good water between them now. So Camilla now, well I suppose probably never really was about winning for these two athletes. It was about getting the technical elements of this race right. Just rehearsing those one more time.
Yeah, the pacing is very important on this. I'm sure when they look back on the race, they'll look at how they paced it and what their drop off or what their increase in pace was like throughout the race. You probably find the person who would win a 1500 would be the person that dropped off the least rather than the person who got faster. So that's where you'll see the field start to spread, as Camilla has probably dropped her pace less than the rest of the field.
I'm not sure she's dropped her pace at all. She's very steady around those 65s. Seems to have that little spurt back to sort of 65 zeros, and I think she'll probably back down to about 65 threes or so, but really been very, very steady. And so Danielle, I think, probably has dropped her pace a little bit. Talk a little bit about Camilla's technique here in this one. Is there a particular ideal stroke for a distance freestyler?
Well, you can see Camilla's technique is her stroke's quite arching, but that's probably just so she can relax her recovery over the top of the water. It's really what happens under the water will get your propulsion and your speed, and just creating that relaxed arm over the top is going to be beneficial over a 1500. Obviously it's a long way and you'll get tired, so not so much legs and just use of the stroke rate and the tempo of the arms. And you see that quite a lot, especially in the female swimming, but if you take the male swimming at the moment in 1500, the best swimmer in the Italian swimmer, Paltrinieri, has a very high stroke rate and very little legs. So there's different ways of swimming it. I think Camilla goes for the high tempo and relaxed arms. That's how she gets her speed.
She's coming up to her final turn now. So she maybe just did drop her pace in the last stage. Then we're about a 66, but she'll be looking probably to pick it up down this last 50. Use what she's got left. So we're looking at a sort of 15, 12 maybe, 15, 13, something in that order.
It'll be a very good swim, I think. Are you aware of the Scottish record in this event?
Yeah, I'm just thinking because actually she was belled 100 early, so
I hope she doesn't stop.
I was going to say, yeah, that was a bit odd, and they're obviously belling her again, and she, I think, knew exactly what was going on there. So
I think Danielle was a bit confused. She had to look up and see what was going on.
yeah, that was unfortunate, but certainly didn't put off Camilla. I think she knew what was going well. So they're getting pretty excited here. Now, Scottish record stands at 16:25.56. It is Camilla's record. And I think this is going to be a new one. She turns for home, 15:45. 32 seconds for that last penultimate 50. So add 32 to 15:45, and you get something like 16:17 against that 16:25 record. So
Easily.
she can do that. She's just going to smash this record. So this is really splendid stuff.
Our teammates of City Glasgow look excited. Our coach Ian Wright as well. It's going to be a very good swim.
Wow, what a swim. 16:16, 72. 9 seconds off that record.
Great swim from Camilla there. And that's going to give her a lot of confidence in the next few weeks as she prepares for Rio.
Finished off there on a 63.5. Just to drive it in home.